All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about why focus and sticking to the same thing is the most important thing in business and why it cost me so many years of pain and struggle and why I finally learned the lesson now. So I will explain a little bit of my story throughout this video and basically tell you through that the examples of when I should have stuck to things and what I could maybe had made something work and I would have been much further ahead. But I do think this lesson is going to take me a lot further because it will build the endurance and the hatred towards changing things when they shouldn't be changed, and really sticking to the same path for a really long time, because every grass is greener or every grass is like deserted. It's all about where you water and what you take care of. So I learned this from obviously a lot of different people, but the question isn't if you know something, right? The question is, how do you act in the moment where you have the inclination or the feeling that you should change something, right? Or that you should do that thing that you know you shouldn't do, right? And then you start justifying, because there's always reasons why you should change, but there's also plenty of reasons why you shouldn't. So the question is, which one will you pick? So let's get straight into it. Let me share the whiteboard here. So trusty whiteboard, as Alex Spector likes to say. So I'm just going to explain my story. And this is quite vulnerable because, I mean, this has been quite frustrating for me the last few years, because every time I changed, it made sense, like looking back, it made sense logically, but at the same time, it didn't. I could have stuck to it and I could have made it work, but I didn't. And yeah, now I regret it. But I do think that's going to help me, and everything works for me, not against me. So, good things come from bad things happening. So, based on that, let's say I'll just paint this story here a little bit. So, I started out in 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016. And how can I do this? Okay, there we go. 2016. And that's the second time I quit school, basically. That was the second time. It was December, and yeah, my family didn't really support me at that moment. They didn't really understand what I was trying to do with my life. I hadn't also demonstrated that I was going to actually be able to do something with this in my life, so I understand where they were coming from. But yeah, but basically from that, like, I was, yeah, I had to just go my own way and not rely on the opinions of others of what I should or should not do with my life, which I recommend you all to do. But if you're here, you're probably on that camp already. So, based on that, from 2016, I'll forget the dates a little bit. It doesn't really matter. But basically, I started out with e-commerce, right? I did it for about 6 months, no, actually about 8 to 10 months, e-com, right? The first stage was actually FBA. And then the second stage was dropshipping. And yeah, forgive my letters. This is horrible. Dropshipping. Okay. And I actually did quite well. Like in about 6 months, I made over 20,000, just over 20,000, I believe, in revenue. Profit around like 6 to 8K, using Facebook ads. Back in the day, this was a big thing. It still is dropshipping, but you need to do a completely different strategy now at this point. And the main reason why I switched from that was because the ad stopped working and I had no reason to keep going. The only thing I wanted to do is prove my parents wrong. That was it, that I could make this work, right? And once I did that, boom, everything just, stopped making sense to me. I didn't have any more motivation. So that's how the first business died. And funnily enough, if I had kept going, who knows where I'd be at this point. But if I just kept trying different ads and different things and actually work on my vision, why I actually wanted to do this thing, and not just, trying to prove other people wrong and do it for myself, my own reasons, who knows where I would have been now, right? So first time that happened. Then I had my like startup phase. Let's call it the startup phase. So basically, I was in this like startup kind of world. I was in Berlin, Germany, and actually this was before that, started before that, while I was still in Portugal. And basically, the startup phase was just getting into that space of like Uber, the next big idea, where basically the idea is that you need to have a special idea in order to be able to succeed, right? Which is completely not the case. You can definitely just copy somebody else and make it better, and you'll have plenty of business to go around. So that was my startup phase. I had a few like really not very good ideas. It did help me. Like each of these stages did teach me skills that allow me now to stack up so many things that allow me to help so many people with. But still, if I had stuck to that, I could have learned the same things, right? But I had things like I built a website on like how to help people with how to help people with their gifts. Yeah, like how to build a list of gifts that your family members would want, and then you automatically can give them those gifts through Amazon. Amazon wishlist literally just does that. So that was a stupid idea. Spent months building that website and a bunch of different things. So that didn't entirely work out too well. After that, I actually went into the agency space. So I started looking at SMMA and things like that. And that's where I got into influencer marketing. Marketing. And I had an agency for that, basically, like placing influencers with businesses so that they could promote their businesses. I took an angle that was not very good. It was not actually not an agency at first. It was first like a website, like a platform where they could connect with each other. I didn't even spend enough time building that. Maybe that could have been something, but actually that taught me how to reach out to people and cold and get people to say yes to certain things, as well as connect people in a way that made sense, right? For them to profit from each other's like presence. And so that was pretty cool. And that was my first agency. It didn't really work out too well. I got one client or something. I don't know, like just not very good. And at the same time, I had to make some money. So I was working in a guest house, and I also wanted to leave Portugal to go to Germany. And so I had to find a job online to go to Berlin, Germany. And I did find that. And basically in that job for the next year, I basically just worked a job. But that job actually taught me a lot. It was a startup, actually, and allowed me to move from Portugal. Like the agency just died, basically. That another reason, another thing that didn't work out. But I basically needed to focus on the job 100%. I couldn't have anything else on the side. That was the requirement. Or, it was just not exactly, I wanted to do well on the job, right? I didn't want to just get paid for nothing. And so that's why I wanted to do really well. Let's see if I can remove that atrocity, whatever. Oh, well, now we went too far. Okay, anyways, job, right? So in that job, I actually was a content marketer. So I did content and I learned how to write blog posts. Some of those blog posts actually ranked quite well, and I think they're still ranking. They ranked above. So it was like a software company that was selling data as well as selling outreach tools and software to B2B companies. And so I was writing content and actually outranked a few times Salesforce and to number one. So that was pretty cool, but not during the year. It happened afterwards, which was funny. So it was a pretty stressful job, but I did learn a lot. I learned about leadership. I learned about, how to be diligent. I learned about how to, edit more than write. I learned how to edit my own content. I learned how to write properly, fix my grammar, how to make things readable, how to make things, look nicer. And that's where I also started getting into sales a little bit more. I did do sales before this, but yeah, this is where, and obviously throughout these things, uh, but yes, but obviously a job is not the long term that I wanted. And at the end, we kind of mutually agreed to part ways because the things I was doing was actually not giving an ROI to the business. It only started doing that like a few months afterwards, which is funny. But so that was pretty stressful because I always like to give people results, but actually did work out afterwards. But I was no longer in a position. So from there, this is where things started really to ramp up for me a little bit more. That's when I had my second agency. I started working with musicians. I helped out a friend with his YouTube channel, and that worked out well. So I started helping other musicians, and I got up to like 35 clients, I think, with musicians specifically, and then like another 10 with coaches. Like it was like a mix of this, I got to 50 clients basically total. I got up to 50 clients, not all high ticket, a lot of them low ticket. I was doing Instagram. So that was the agency. I was doing Instagram follow for follow growth basically. So I was giving musicians more followers by automating their account to get more followers basically, and it worked out decently well. It was not a great service to have, and that could have evolved into other things that I could have offered instead. But what I decided to do instead is change the avatar of who I was selling. But this is where I really honed down my sales skills. I took probably over 2,500 calls in this process, or at least 2,000 calls. And I eventually turned that into closing just over DMs and email without having to even, hop on a call. And so that was pretty cool. But I realized that the avatar was not able to, spend that much. And that's where I was mistaken, because right now I've literally helped people that are working with musicians and they're charging 3,500 and upwards up front, right? So it's like there's plenty of people that have money in any niche. You just have to be able to find them. And so, yeah, I decided to change into coaches, and then I was helping SaaS companies, and I did get a few clients, but I was not very good at delivery. That was the thing. I could always sell people in the vision, but delivery was not great. I was offering Facebook ads at that point, and I was just not good enough at Facebook ads, and I didn't find the right people to help me, right? That were actually good at Facebook ads. So that taught me a lot about sales. It taught me a lot about client management. It taught me a lot about hiring the right people, or actually hiring the wrong people, and not knowing how to manage them myself. Not even their fault, honestly. But yeah, then eventually, like all these changes between avatars are changes. They might be the same business, but they're still changes. You're changing the service, you're changing the avatar, changing the messaging. It's still a completely new business. And I thought, nah, it's just a micro change. It's fine. It's really not. It's completely, it's a different thing. So what I should have done instead is just focus on musicians, which I knew them for already months already. Just find something that they were willing to pay for a lot more, and make sure I was able to sell it and deliver on that. That's the only thing I had to do to complete the bridge. But once again, I changed because it was getting hard. And yeah, I did get a few clients, but it got me stuck. It got me stuck again. So then after that, I had a period where I did nothing because I was kind of burned out for a few months, and I had to get a delivery job actually. And also things with my ex were not working out too well. And then after that, what I did was I went into closing, and I was like, okay, I just need some type of online income to get out of this hole. So I went into this closing program, and that was actually really quite good. I really, I think, got my closing level to the next level, and became closer full time. So I took a ton of calls, which gets me now to over 5,000 calls at this point, right? So I was a closer for Bastian Slot. Bastian Bastian Slot. Pretty big in the space. He's at some point he was making 1 million a month. And yeah, I was his top closer from day one. It was quite a wonderful experience. And eventually I just left because I wanted to build my own thing. And potentially some things in delivery I wanted them to be better and different, but I had no control over that, obviously. So I decided to leave and to do my own thing again. I basically became a coach. I went into coaching. And now at this point, what I understood is that agency and coaching is kind of similar ultimately. Like you're still teaching concepts or implementing solutions. It's still a service based business, but it's still different enough, right? So I went into coaching. I went into business with a really good friend of mine, a best friend of mine. And we got a few clients, got up to 20 clients actually. Now, with all the knowledge I had accumulated from closing, actually being inside of somebody else's business. Um, and that was pretty good. But at the end of the day, we had some personal things that financially that made it hard for us to kind of continue the business, and so we decided to split ways. And I think it made sense more as well because our skills were like kind of a lot overlapped. So that gave me another lesson, which was how to find the right partners. But technically, we could have stuck to that, right? I could have stuck to closing as well, but it's not really a business, so I wouldn't say that actually would have been a good idea. That was just more of a job, even though high paying job making 10K per month, but still a job. But this I could have stayed. We could have figured out a way. I could continue exactly the same offer and just make it better. But yeah, I decided to pivot from that, and then I went into what I'm doing right now, finally, which was basically beginning of 2023 exactly. So it's been a whole year finally of me just sticking to one thing for a lot longer than all the other things, and this is what I'm going to stick to. Which basically what I do right now is help people improve their systems within their coaching businesses, implement a DM setter and a closer within 6 months, so they can hop off sales completely, just manage them, and are able to scale the business without worrying about constraints. And I've been working with clients over the last year, and still going to continue this year entirely. And this is where I finally learned the lesson. Like I've had reasons to quit. I've had thoughts of quitting, but I'm not quitting anymore because I realized that it's it's not going to change anything. It's going to be hard regardless. Like all these activities taught me a ton of skills, automation, taught me, how to deal with client support over email, how to outreach successfully, how to create ideas that are actually good, how to connect with people, do influencer marketing, right? If that was a way to kind of channel that growth. job, it taught me about content, how to create, or at least written content, how to edit and be simple about things. The agency, how to manage clients and how to learn one type of avatar. As a closer, I mastered closing. And then with coaching, learn how to work with a partner as well as work with a specific type of avatar that's very close to what I'm doing right now, just a little bit of a stage ahead, the people that I work with. And that all mounted up to what I'm doing now. So all the skills are kind of like built together to finally make this work out. And it's starting to work out, and it's going to work out even more this year. So I'm super excited for that. But basically, the lesson is any of these that I've tried, not the job, not these two, but any of these variations or whatsoever could have worked out. But they didn't because I just didn't stick to it and figured out how to solve the problem in front of me instead of just throwing out the baby with the bathwater and trying something new instead. That seemed better, but all had their downsides. And you see, all of them I ended up quitting for one reason or another. So I'm no longer a quitter. I don't identify as a quitter. It's time to stick to something, and I'm really excited this time. So hopefully that was helpful to share my story, but also to understand, why sticking to something is important. And it's not going to be different if you try something new. There's always going to be difficulties, and the best path is through, not over, around, or a different lane. Hope that was helpful. Have a great day.